Welcome to Statesmen, the podcast where we explore all 50 states with our 5 senses. If you've come here for history, we'll give you some. But most of this is half-baked opinion that is never intended to harm or offend anyone. Evil. We're all drawn to doing the bad, naughty things of the world. Thievery, unprotected sex. It's only natural to want to do the things you just don't get to do. But most of us baddies don't even come close to the evil that Thanos, the greatest Marvel supervillain of all time, musters with only the snap of his soft, fleshy purple fingers. With every great evil, there must be, of course, a great good. A perfect being exactly the opposite of the eternal deviant hybrid known as the Mad Titan. And indeed there is, in the form of an idyllic and natural 8,983.18 kilometers squared sleeping caldera named after its position, complementary on the color wheel opposite the purple ne'er-do-well, and whose exterior is as hard as I am talking about soft, fleshy Thanos. Pray to your gods, mortals, we welcome you to Yellowstone.
Here come them dang statesman boys again.
I'm your older statesman, Tim Ferrari, along with my junior statesman, Anthony Rossi.
Hello, Stone.
And Stuart Highcar.
Oh, man, am I a comedic actress from the late 2000s who's come down with a bad case of kidney failure? A yellow Emma Stone?
God.
I thought Anthony's was bad, but...
I thought that was good.
Honestly...
It was just easy.
Yeah, Yellowstone is a good one, I think.
Yellowstone's actually really, really good, but mine was better. How are you guys doing this week?
I'm good. I'm tired. It's been a long one.
Oh, absolutely. You're telling me.
It's the first warm day, or this seems like the first real day of spring.
Oh, and I mean, luckily we're in a place where we can really celebrate the changing of the seasons within nature.
Of course. Well, we are located in Yellowstone right now. We've left the Stu studio.
Mm-hmm.
Our parents dropped us off in Yellowstone, and we're just out here exploring. It's really beautiful. It's really quite nice.
Broadcasting live from Yellowstone National Park, much like Woody Harrelson's character in 2012. You guys remember?
Not at all.
Okay.
Actually, I do. I remember the big giant tsunami that happened in that. When they were all they were in like the Buddhist temple and the
different
Himalayas.
Part of the movie, part of the movie altogether. But I'm glad I could inspire you guys with it.
Yeah.
What's going on, guys?
I actually need to get out of this park really soon because later this week I'm going to Vermont for the first time in my life. Yeah, I'm going to Killington. I'm going to be skiing slope.
Who's
Pow
Ington?
Pow? Huh?
Who's Ington? I gotta warn him.
I thought you were my friend, Anthony. Get back on the
Why
mic.
are you going to Vermont?
I'm going to Vermont to celebrate my cousin's bachelor party. He's going to be a married man soon.
Oh, wow. Tying it down, but before he can, he's got to hit that slope one more time.
Skis, dice, cash, coke.
Yeah. Pow pow.
Oh, man. Well, that sounds like an absolutely fun week ahead of you, Tim. But yeah, you definitely do have to get out of this park pretty soon.
I have to get out of this park. What do you have to do before you get out of this park, Stu?
Oh, man. I guess before I have to leave or when I'm going to leave?
After you leave, what are you going to do?
After I leave this park, I've got some big plans ahead of me. Obviously, Yellowstone, situated in between 3 different states, at the intersection between all 3 of them, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. I think I'm actually going to go on a tour of those 3 states, exploring each of what they have to share. You know, you're going to Vermont. Maybe I'll take a potato from Idaho up to Wyoming, get a buffalo burger, and bring that down into Montana, where I'll stare up at the sky. The big sky, that is. Big sky country. Anthony?
Very cool.
What do you have going on after we get out of this Yellowstone?
I also really have to get home as soon as possible. Back to Chicago. I'm low on PTO right now because I had to take a day off this week because I got food poisoning at TGI Fridays.
Okay. Wow, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you were psyched before you went there, by the way.
I was excited because it's been years since I've been, and then I got chicken parmesan, which was a huge mistake. Why would you get that? It's a burger place, ribs place.
And at a TGI Fridays.
Yep, and it was clearly just like out of a bag.
Did you get any apps?
Yeah, tons of apps, and the apps all solid.
Yeah, that's what
made my stomach feel great.
That's what that place is before is the apps. The last time I went to a place like that was Chili's, and that was about 8 years ago, and I just remember the horrendous fiery diarrhea that I had afterwards.
Do you guys remember that big deal court case that was going on between TGI Fridays and I think it was Steve Jobs when he claimed that iPhone was all about the apps, but of course TGI Fridays was all about the apps. Tim, we gotta get out of this park. I think
gotta get out of here.
We're going nature crazy. I think is the problem.
It's been a lovely trip. We've seen some beautiful things. We really dove into this beautiful experience, but I just talked to our parents. They completely just forgot that they even came with us.
What do you mean? They were supposed to pick us up here in the next 10 minutes. Are you saying it's going to be longer than that?
Yeah, they're actually out getting dinner and drinks right now, and they can't come back for at least 2 hours.
Dinner and drinks? I hope they're both not drinking.
Yeah, that means if they're drinking, they're not going to be able to come rescue us for another, 8 hours. They have to get sober before they start driving.
No, it'll probably be just 2 hours, I hope.
Well,
my parents get drunk.
It's starting to get really dark, and I'm getting chilly.
Oh, me too. And it doesn't help that I stepped into a stream earlier with my socks and Crocs.
I thought that peeing myself was supposed to make me warmer, but it's only freezing to me. We have to get inside.
Okay, everyone, scan 1/3 of the degrees around us in the circumference of the circle around us. Scan 1/3 of those. Okay. 120 degrees
Scanning.
each. Scanning.
Wait,
Scanning.
I think I found something in my not my quadrant, but my trident.
Give us the coordinates.
It's just right over there. It's a little shack with some smoke billowing out of it. It looks kind of warm.
I've locked onto it as well.
Okay, let's...
Anthony, come back here.
Jesus Christ, he's running so fast.
Okay, I guess we'll just try and take up home in this strange shack until our parents come pick us up?
Yeah, well, it looks like somebody's home.
Home? Who could be home at this hour? Okay, just knock right ahead, Anthony.
Oh, wait. That's Camden.
Oh, hey, guys.
Camden, what the hell? What, you already got here?
I was taking a snooze on this front porch here.
Oh.
I didn't know you guys would be in Yellowstone, too.
Yeah, our parents dropped us off. Didn't know that your parents were coming as well.
I came here by myself.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sad. Do you know who lives here?
No. I just thought I'd take a snooze on this front porch. You just knocked, so they should be coming to the door soon, yeah?
Yeah, any minute now. I'm sure they'll open the door and surprise us with their identity.
Hello.
Oh! Is that local woman Laura Mulcahy?
It is. Hi.
Whoa! Well, what are you doing out here in Yellowstone?
What are the odds?
This is so crazy. We know you from Chicago. You do a lot of funny stuff over there.
Yeah. Well, I work here. I work here in Yellowstone. The area
really?
you're in is called Grant Village.
Grant?
Whoa.
Whoa, that's so cool.
Wow.
One of my best friends' name is Grant.
Yeah. Did you know that, Laura?
No.
Well, that won't be the only thing you're going to learn. Do you mind if we stay here for the next 2 hours with you? Our parents they left us here. We're home stone.
Yeah, sure. Come on in. It's actually a pretty common situation.
Oh, really? You
Yeah.
get a lot of lost children
Yeah,
here?
if you want to hike the backcountry, you got to get a permit.
A permit?
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
You got to get a backcountry permit.
Do you have to show that you're smart enough to not get lost like us?
No.
Oh, okay.
What do you have to prove to get
I
permit?
believe you can just get one. But then,
Whoa.
yeah, there are some documented bear attacks on people going hiking in the backcountry.
I've slapped a bear before. I could do it again.
Excuse me.
I had a bear come up to me one time. I smacked him in his nose and he went away.
Tim is not lying. That is 100% true. Anthony and I saw it through our binoculars. We were sharing one hole each.
A pretty significant part of living in Yellowstone is being on the alert for grizzly bears.
Grizzlies?
Because they live here. I know the last the last grizzly death in the park was a man who was going on a run. And he had headphones in.
What a fool.
Well,
correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it, you're not supposed to run away from grizzlies, right? You're supposed to play dead?
well, so grizzlies usually won't mess with you unless you get between a mom and her cubs. That's like a situation that you don't want to get in. Or unless you come into their territory. So basically you have to be situationally aware So yeah, I think this guy just had headphones in and he got attacked and killed. And then,
Dang.
I know it sounds dark, but do we want to hazard a guess on what he was listening to? You guys think it was Statesmen podcast?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he probably saw the bear and ran towards it for a sweet release.
Well, unfortunately, he wasn't like Tim, because we all remember the old adage, right? If it's black, get the fuck back.
Mhm.
If it's brown, punch it in its face.
Oh, I see. Yes,
Camden, why
Tim.
don't you go wait outside?
Well, Laura, in the meantime, while we wait for our papas and mamas to come pick us up from the park, would you mind if we set up a few educational segments to walk through with you? It would kind of mean the world to us.
sure, be my guests.
Oh,
Wait,
like
before we get,
Lumiere the candle.
how am I supposed to do a presentation before I know exactly where we are? What is this village? What's going on here?
Good point.
Yeah.
Grant
Laura,
Village.
you are working in Grant Village. Is this a place that you've
Correct.
worked for a long time in?
I've worked here for the whole season, which a season is about 8 months. It's from
Whoa.
around May to October.
Oh, dang.
And after that, it becomes too cold to live here.
Man.
Though, so Yellowstone starts getting snowfall in like August or September because the elevation is very high, so it gets really cold.
Oh.
And so there is one man who stays in this shack where I live / dorm, who's like the winter attendant. It's kind of a Shining situation. So
Oh,
there's
Yeah.
one man who stays in Grant and
Yeah.
makes sure that the building.
Like doesn't
8
fall apart.
It's
Yeah.
crazy that you say 8 months to a season. In the business we're in, we're lucky to get 8 episodes in a season. Am I right, guys?
Jesus Christ, Stuart.
I'm worried about this man. Is anybody checking on him during those months to make sure he's not going loopy?
Well, it becomes pretty uninhabitable. Like, I don't know what the lowest documented temperature in Yellowstone is. I think it's around -60.
Jesus.
Holy
Oh my
shit.
God.
And yeah. And I think that was in Mammoth, which is the furthest north, like quote unquote neighborhood. So there's 5 or so like neighborhoods, again, quote unquote. Grant Village is one of them. Old Faithful
Yeah.
is the most famous one.
Sort of like the 5 boroughs of New York.
Exactly. It's exactly that.
Hey, I'm from Grant.
Yeah.
Hey, mammoth guy over here.
Have you been to the other camps or the other villages?
I have been to the other villages. There's Mammoth, which is furthest north, and there's a lot of elk there. There's like, which in elk is like a deer on steroids. It's like a gigantic deer, a very muscular, large deer that headbutt things.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they do. So if you go to Mammoth, you can walk around like essentially a little town, but then there are these huge deer walking around, like they live there and have jobs, like napping on the lawn of a restaurant.
Or like
Aw.
Detective Pikachu and serving coffee behind the bar.
That's certainly a possibility of what these elk are doing, right?
Yeah.
Didn't see that movie. No internet out here. No TVs in the hotels either.
Oh, man, it's going to be tough if we have to stay here for more than 2 hours.
Yeah, people will complain all the time that their hotel doesn't have a TV and you have to tell them you're in a national park.
Do you
sir."
do you tell them like the best screen there is? Look out the damn window.
I should start.
Jesus
I think maybe
Christ.
that's a good idea. So, Laura, this is a real job that you have been paid for, an incredible opportunity. What is the title that you hold here in?
My title is residence coordinator, which is pretty much like an RA at a college. So the job that most people know in the national parks is park ranger, which is like the cops
Mhm.
of the parks.
Mhm.
They like enforce things like parking laws and
They make sure hikers have permits.
yes, which is very important because if you hike without a permit, you can die.
Yeah.
So most of living in Yellowstone is knowing that nature is bigger than you and can kill you, which is a very cool feeling, I think.
Yeah, because you really don't get that anywhere else in human civilization, like especially in Chicago. It's like, I don't know, I feel safe
I
all
know.
the time in
Sometimes,
nature.
sometimes a pigeon will fly very low over my head, and I will have a strike of fear in my heart.
Well, it's really good for me to know that 3 white men feel safe in the city.
Yeah, we are really
Very
killing
true.
it where we are.
Yep.
Do you feel when living in your time in Yellowstone in Grant Village, did you feel safe from the nature? Or did you feel like
No, I did not feel safe from the nature, which I think is really cool. It's a cool feeling. And it's a feeling some people get frustrated with because humans aren't the dominant species.
Yeah.
They're kind of the lowest on the food chain. But no, there's a lot that can kill you. But as long as you're aware, you should usually be fine. There's a book called Death in Yellowstone that I read while I was there that documents like every death in the park since it opened in 1872, since Theodore Roosevelt opened it, first national park. A lot of people have died by falling into geysers, or not geysers, but like hot pools around geysers. Because there's these really beautiful like blue pools like around Old Faithful, and they look blue because they're full of bacteria. They're full of heat-loving bacteria.
Yeah.
Oh, they love the heat.
They love the heat. So they make these really gorgeous like blue pools with orange outsides, and it looks lovely, but they're like beyond boiling. They're like, I don't know exactly what temperature they are, but they're like
superheated.
They're superheated. So there's a really famous story in the 70s of, and this is the reason dogs aren't allowed on the hiking trails in Yellowstone anymore. But there's a famous story of a man who brought his dog to a geyser basin, and his dog jumped into one of the pools, and then he jumped into the pool after his dog. And there's the story is like he came up and was like, I shouldn't have done that. So, it's sad. He died, obviously.
Wait, he came out of the pool and was able to say, I shouldn't have done that?
He said, I shouldn't have done that, but it was so, and this is dark, but boys, you came to the park. So this,
oh, God.
This is what they're going to learn.
Our parents aren't here. You can tell us anything.
The water was so hot that the skin was actually like melting off his body.
Yeah, that's
like
fucked.
He came up out of the water in the pool, put his hands on the side of the ground where the pool ended, and like the skin of his hands stayed on the beach.
My God.
Oh, that's so horrifying.
It's really horrifying.
I don't know how my parents are going to get me to sleep tonight.
Yeah, well, yeah, so that's one way people have died. There's a big canyon. Another one of our boroughs is canyon. So it's like Yellowstone has its own Grand Canyon.
Whoa.
And people have fallen in. Like people will try to take photos being like out on rocks and will fall down. There's a lot of animal deaths, bears. In my time here, a bear mauled a 9-year-old boy.
Whoa, no.
But it was fine. He survived. Well, he was probably not fine, but he's alive. There's wolves here. There's moose, which are big and dumb. They're some of the stupidest animals. They're big and dumb and territorial. So bear's a little bit smarter than moose.
Bear a little bit smarter than moose.
Bear a little bit smarter than moose.
I think by the end of this podcast, we'll be able to have ranked all the smartness of animals.
Elk a little bit smarter than moose, but a little dumber than bear.
Wedge in between.
And bison, beautiful.
Beautiful
bison too hot to
bison,
even think about the brain.
So I just had a question. How did you become involved in this position? Like what led you to this job?
Well, so I grew up doing a lot of like camping and hiking. I'm from Minnesota. And then I moved to Chicago and I really missed it. So I found this job on Indeed.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just Googling like, where can I kayak? I was trying to say hike and kayak, and I said Hayek.
That's a pretty.
Where can I sell my Hayek? And I found this job on Indeed. I didn't think anything would come of it, but then they kept calling me.
And you were like, guys, please.
I was like, please, come on. But yeah.
What did you have to like? I assume part of the interviewing process, like if I'm getting a job at Walgreens, they have to know that I'm okay at stocking candy in the aisle.
Sure.
To get a job at Yellowstone, did you have to prove it and in any way that you're nature capable? Or because you were more than RA?
It was incredibly easy. It is
wow.
It is so easy to get a job in the national parks, and everyone should do it. Because Yellowstone, I don't know exactly how many hotels and restaurants they have, but so the park covers like you were saying, it covers 3 states. Most of it is in Wyoming, but then it branches into Montana and Idaho. Idaho is a fun place to go to see Mormons. Second most Mormon state after Utah.
Of all the things to see in Yellowstone.
If you want to go to a Panda Express and sit behind some Mormon missionaries, that's something that I did in Rexburg, Idaho, and you can also do it. if you want a day trip out of the park. But what was the question?
I guess I'm
the
asking,
park
like,
is really big.
the question was, is the park big?
The park is really big. The park is 3,500 square miles-ish. So within that is a lot of hotels and restaurants. There's tour guides who lead like bus tours, and there's kayak companies. There's all kinds of things. So they need a lot of staff to work there. So if you're at a point where you're looking for direction, if you're a recent college grad looking for something to do, which is a category that I fell into.
Sure.
There are a lot of veterans who work in the park who like come back from combat and are sort of not supported.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
So they work in the national parks. There's a lot of retirees.
Ooh.
And then some just true weirdos. Some like people who would kind of live in this weird national park seasonal job world instead of sort of regular society.
Yeah, it must
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like a whole separate world from the rest of it, right? Because
Yeah.
you're kind of, you said, I mean, currently where we are in this cabin right now, we're pretty far away from civilization.
Yeah, the nearest town is 2 hours away,
Oh,
and it has a
man.
McDonald's.
Whoa.
So,
If we're lucky, when our parents drive us home, we'll get nuggets.
yeah. So if anyone goes to town, they take the orders of like everyone else who works in the area. Like if we were to go to town to go to Walmart, we would take the orders of everyone in Grant Village and be like, what do you want us to pick up?
Wow.
Gum? Great.
An old-fashioned, like, Oregon Trail style God, what am I even saying?
Like a
you know?
recon mission.
Yeah, exactly.
To Walmart.
You go out and hit the trading post for all your folk back at home.
Yeah.
You could
Yep.
pick me up a really nice TV. I want to watch my Detective Pikachu.
This kid.
So
This kid.
while you were kind of managing this facility like an RA would, were you ever busting up parties or preventing mischief?
Tell me you weren't busting chops.
Well, so I came in halfway through the season. So a lot of craziness had already gone down by the time I got here. Like a member of the security team getting super wasted and being like passed out naked from the waist down.
Whoa.
Wow. Tough half of you to be naked, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Right? That was something that had already happened by the time I got there. That guy had left and wanted to be a park ranger. So
Oh, crazy.
we'll see what
He
happened. to
wanted
him.
more authority.
Yeah.
Huh.
He wanted more responsibilities. Some of my job was RA things like, I mean, everyone is an adult, so it's a little different than college.
Mhm.
If people were under 21, they were technically not supposed to drink. But when you're in the middle of miles and miles of forest,
Mhm.
you know, as long as everyone's being safe, it's okay.
Mhm.
But it is interesting. There's not much to do around here, so people do go a little crazy because there's no internet. Like you can't go to a movie theater. There's not a lot of like entertainment.
Sure, but tell me, there's got to be serious satellite radio.
No.
No way.
No. So there's employee pubs at every like quote unquote borough. So we have like our Grant Village pub that's basically a warehouse where they sell beer. So people will get wasted. There's a lot of drinking. A lot of people will have campfires, and then a lot of sex.
Whoa.
There are condom dispensers in every bathroom.
What?
Which is really nice. My company acknowledges that people have sex because if you take away the internet, movies, radio, and
internet radio, serious
and
satellite
internet radio, and the ability to like, you know, restaurants, whatever people do for fun, people basically drink and bang.
Yeah, once you've explored every inch of the park, you got to start exploring your body.
Yeah.
But
Christ.
only after you've explored the park.
Yeah, absolutely. It does kind of feel like going back in time when like people had like dozens of kids or something living on a farm because it's
Yeah.
like, what else are you doing
It
every night?
totally feels like going back in time. Like I got here and immediately wrote about 25 postcards because I didn't know anybody and I couldn't text anyone.
Did you get a response on any of those postcards?
I got a response on several, which was really nice. I
Aw.
got responses from friends who clearly had never written a letter in their life and like learned how the U.S. Postal Service works to send me a letter, which was really nice.
Damn, those kids were probably writing like LOL on their letters and stuff.
Got him.
Before we get into it, moose dumber than bear.
Uh-huh.
Elk also dumber than bear, but smarter than moose.
Mhm.
Sounds like that guy who was naked from the waist down might be dumber than all those animals. What do you say?
God damn, bottom of the food
The
chain.
heat.
I
The
think
heat.
so.
Wow.
Another big part of my RA job is like safety from nature. So half the people live in this dorm / shack that you
Right.
guys have stumbled upon. And a lot of them live in cabins as well. So part of my job is walking around the cabins at night and like knocking on people's doors if they've left their shoes outside because they're a bear attractant.
Mhm.
Shoes?
Whoa.
Bears
Mhm.
like shoes?
Shoes are a bear attractant because they smell.
Your stinky feet, Stuart.
Mhm.
But my stinky feet just smell like raw meat and cheese. Why would a bear like that?
Oh, man.
Where am I going to store my prosciutto?
In a tree. If you're camping, you're supposed to hoist it up in a tree
Oh, yeah.
or inside your cabin.
Before we move on to our little presentations we have to show for you, Laura,
Mm-hmm.
let me ask, do you think, we asked this of a lot of our guests on the podcast, but do you think there's a difference between the folks you meet in Yellowstone and the folks you might meet in the big city of Chicago?
Oh, yeah, definitely. This has been a huge lesson in meeting people who are very, very different from me. Because there's truly people from all over the world who come to work here and who come as visitors. There's 4 million people come through the park every year. And I looked it up. The population of Chicago is about 2 million. So it's like if the city of Chicago, if everyone in Chicago came twice, that's how many
Wow.
people go to the park every year. So there's people from all over the world. And then in addition, Yellowstone, or the company I work for, which is called Xanterra, which is
Whoa.
a private company that owns hotels and restaurants in a lot of the national parks.
It also sounds like they're trying to like bring dinosaurs back from the dead or something.
Xanterra.
Yeah.
Yeah, that name has some significance. Like Terra means earth, Zan means something, but I forget
Yeah,
what
it's
it
like
is.
bars and shit.
But it's a cool company. They're very focused on sustainability, which is cool because they know that if humans hopefully need to preserve the national parks.
Would you say that most people you meet in Yellowstone are pretty nature conscious as compared to maybe Chicago, where we love our big gas burning trucks?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you have come to the park to work, you're probably interested in hiking or in nature in some way. But anyway, so my company intentionally like goes to other countries and like has job fairs and like tries to get people to come work. So this year that I'm here, there's a lot of folks from Ecuador and Thailand who have come here. So that's really cool. And then there's some other international folks who, just because those were the 2 countries that my company went to this year, but next year they'll go to different countries and recruit people from there. And then there's like other international folks. So I don't have a car here, which is significant because you need a car to get around. It's very big. The
Mhm.
park's very big.
Mhm.
So I have walked and hitchhiked everywhere that I've gone. I've hitchhiked 3 times in the park, which
Whoa.
is common. A lot of employees hitchhike.
Damn.
That's terrifying. I won't lie to you. It feels like if there's ever a place to get kidnapped and disappeared, it would be a big empty park where you hitchhike from.
So there's only been about 10 murders ever. This is also the book Death in Yellowstone is really great and I can't recommend it enough. So most of the book is about people getting murdered by nature, by not respecting nature, but then there's a small section of people getting killed by each other. So there's only a few murders in the whole history, but one of them is a man who picked up a hitchhiker who turned out to be a cannibal. And it's a really crazy story.
Whoa.
It's a really good story and a crazy story. But yes, I read it and I hitchhiked. So
Whew.
I forget what your question was.
Whatever it is, it's totally okay. You're lucky that the 3 of us aren't cannibals, other than chewing on your brain for those nice ideas you've been feeding us all night.
Yeah, before we get into before we get into the actual bulk of our presentations, I just wanted to ask, it's obviously such a lifestyle change from living in a city like Chicago.
Mhm.
When you are in Chicago, what is the thing that you missed most about that kind of secluded lifestyle and being in nature? And then when you're in when you're out in there, what is the thing you miss most about living in a city?
So when I'm in Chicago, I miss being in my cabin, which as you guys can see,
Yeah.
I live in a cabin, which is real. So there's like a big dorm, and then I live in this one cabin. It's the closest thing to a studio apartment I've ever had. And I miss just like waking up and seeing pine trees and mountains outside.
Mm.
And like I said, a really big part of living in Yellowstone or being in Yellowstone is the feeling of being very small and of nature being very big. And I think people either react to that by complaining that their hotel room doesn't have a TV and being sort of mad that they're not the dominant species like they always have been, or it can be a really lovely feeling. So I really love it. And it's dangerous. I mean, you gotta like have your head on, you gotta be aware because you have to walk through forest to get anywhere. And there are very real dangers of like, when I first got here was elk rut, which is elk mating season, where male elk will bugle or scream into the forest to attract females. And they all get really aggressive during then. So, if you're walking through a forest to get to like the employee dining hall or the employee pub, you have to be careful if you run into a raging horny elk, or you always have to be worried about bears. Like, since I don't have a car, I hiked out to a geyser basin in the time that I worked here. And there was like a bear alert because there were bears in the area. And this is shortly after that 9-year-old boy got mauled.
Oh, yeah. But he was
fine. He's totally fine. So I like teamed up with these German tourists because we were all alone. And I like hiked with them through the bear country, which is all to say, it's like, it's kind of scary, but it's also so exciting. And it's so cool to like be able to take a bus to Old Faithful and watch it go off. And like, it's such a beautiful, really breathtaking place to be.
Well, speaking of scary and exciting, maybe we should get into our segment.
I just got one more question for you. Would you ever retire here, stay here forever, and even decide to die here?
I hope that I die here. I love it. And to answer the other part of your question, what I miss most when I'm in Yellowstone is like the people in Chicago or my family in Minnesota. So if I could transport all of my friends from Chicago to Yellowstone and have them all live with me, or if there was some way where instead of traveling, instead of Montana and Illinois being thousands and thousands of miles apart, if there was a way I could like easily like teleport between the two or something, I would want to do that. I think there's so many friends in Chicago right now, it would be hard to leave for a long amount of time. But if anything ever changed, yes, I would want to go back to Yellowstone. And this is the only place I would be okay with dying. I had better die here. When I'm ready to die, I'll come back and make sure that I die here.
Wow.
Wow, that's really, really great.
Foreshadowing.
So we've prepared, we're students. We love nature. We love the states. And we naturally prepare presentations for all of it. And we prepared one to, show somebody. And I guess that somebody is you while our parents are, getting drunk.
Oh, God, I wish they loved us.
So we're going to explore Yellowstone with our 5 senses. And to start, I believe someone's got a game. Who's got the game?
No game on this one, Jack. We're getting right into the smell.
Man, no fun to start it all off. Okay, so God damn it. I'm all thrown off. This is not the normal show anymore.
It's okay. Our parents left us behind. We can't bring games with us. Sirius satellite radio doesn't even make it out here. How can we plan a game?
All right. So we're going to explore Yellowstone with our 5 senses. And to start, we're going to explore with our sniffers. So, Laura, what I've prepared for you today is something that you're probably so familiar with. Something that, as a city dweller myself, really don't have to spray this all that often because I'm indoors all the time. But
is it bison pheromones?
I've sprayed. We do have a certain type of pheromone, but not something that is inhabiting in Yellowstone. But what I have prepared for you all today is just a little smell that I'm going to spray into the air.
Should we close our eyes?
Yeah, go ahead.
I wonder what it'll be.
I'm not going to spray too much because this stuff is disgusting. So
Sure.
Oh, it went right on me. You sprayed it directly onto me.
Sorry, what did you want me to do?
You might have gotten it in my water.
I think I definitely did.
I'm not going to drink that.
I think I might have gotten into your coffee,
I'm
Stuart.
only now just starting to smell it.
Yeah, you do a little waft over the table, and I'll spray it on you, Laura, if you want.
Please. Well, I think the worst possible thing it could be is bear spray, which is like a heightened version of pepper spray that you spray on bears if you ever get attacked. And if you spray it indoors, they have to evacuate the building.
Oh, wow.
God.
And luckily I didn't do that. I don't bring around bear spray because I just slap them. And then they go away.
But I think this was a spray to get rid of a different smaller pest.
Wait, bear spray? Good morning, Yellowstone. We love it.
Take a 5-minute break outside the shack, please.
Holy shit.
Holy shit, man. No, I brought bug spray. I brought bug spray for us to smell. We definitely need it, being outside all the time. But what did I bring? I brought Deep Woods Insect Repellent 5.
Not the fifth.
Not the 5th.
Is that chock full of DEET?
Chock full of what?
DEET?
DEET?
Yeah, DEET.
DEET.
What is
It's
DEET?
the number one ingredient in bug spray, and it's really bad for the environment and for people.
Well,
Wait,
I just
so-
sprayed it into Anthony's water.
Yeah, if it was like a bunch of it in my coffee, would that make me better? Healthier?
I'm trying to read the font on this, but the color scheme is impossible.
Yeah, it's dark
Oh.
green on slightly darker green.
Yep, there is DEET in this.
Oh.
It is 25% DEET and 75% other ingredients is what it says on the label.
Ooh, what
Wow.
exciting poison.
I know.
What
What do you think that smells like? What is the smell of bug spray? It's like kind of alcoholic, but then there's also fruity qualities to it.
Yeah, when I first started drinking in high school, my friend called vodka delicious bug spray. So I think it's,
Strange.
which is something I think about all the time,
That's really good. That's a really good analog.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think bug spray does smell kind of alcoholic.
Interesting. I guess I only have ever really used bug spray. Like it definitely gives me a sense memory of a particular 2-month span in every summer.
Yeah.
Where I already have sunscreen on, so my skin is gross and oily, and then I'm gonna spray a second layer of spray onto myself to make myself even less comfortable. I don't know. Anthony, you a big spray head?
I always hated putting on bug spray because it stings my sensitive skin.
That's
Oh,
the DEET.
yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be
that's
the DEET.
And I would stick to kind of doing what I would usually use one of those roll-ons on my joints or
What?
I know what you're talking
roll-on
about.
sticks.
The
Yeah,
roll-ons.
they're very cool. It doesn't burn quite as much. But I also would have a tropical scented one that I would take out when I would go camping.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
I would wind up spraying too much of that just because I like the smell, which is directly I need to atone for that and give back to the world because I single-handedly fucked some shit up.
Anthony trying to pick up the girls on the campsite.
You sprayed your own hole in the ozone layer.
So I noticed that when we were talking about all these animals and dangerous situations, we weren't necessarily talking about buggies.
Where the bugs?
Yeah.
Were there a ton of bugs, or was that not really noticeable?
So there's a lot of mosquitoes.
Mm.
Also, is music supposed to be going off, or am I going
No,
insane?
you are hearing the music playing live behind the segment.
Great. Great. Yeah, so around June, July, mosquitoes get really bad, especially for people living in cabins like me. But like I said, winter starts pretty early. The first snowfall that I've experienced was in mid-August here because we're pretty high up. I think Grant Village is about 7,000 feet up.
Oh,
But yeah,
so
it
wait.
gets too cold for them pretty quickly.
So everybody's a mile high up there?
Is this a setup to a punchline?
Show is. Show is. But I think we know where we're going with it. Okay.
I don't know where we're going.
Well, you mentioned that, there's nothing to do up there.
Oh yeah, people smoke a lot of weed for sure. Is that what you were going
No,
for?
I'm just talking about the Mile High Club.
Oh sure. Yeah.
What?
I guess
Really?
I thought you were talking about weed as well.
Oh, no.
I guess if you had sex on a mountain, you could say that. But
You are part of the Mile High Club, I suppose.
I've always been curious about that, guys. Plane cruising altitude, 30,000 feet. Shouldn't it be like the 6 Mile High Club?
Yes.
Anthony, what do you think?
I've thought that since the 5th grade.
Okay, whoa.
I'm advanced.
Yeah, you're a creep.
Ubiquitous bugs, weed. With all of these issues being chronic, it makes sense that it would call for some Deets by Dre.
What is happening?
Go outside.
that boy was in the shadows for so long, I forgot he was here.
He's quiet, but he is recording everything we say.
So bug spray, I mean, maybe not the most apt sense because with I guess at least not during the winter. Tim did a bad job.
What the fuck?
I guess, Laura, what we're trying to ask is, what are some smells that immediately remind you of this great Yellowstone environment? You sniffy into the two front holes of the face. What's Yellowstone? Oh man.
Well, pine trees, definitely. There's a lot of pine forests.
I can imagine there being like a lot of a sulfur smell if you're around the Old Faithful geysers.
Yes. If you're around a geyser basin, there is definitely a sulfur smell, which is because of that fun bacteria we were talking about.
Oh, and they like it hot.
The heat-loving bacteria that make it look so beautiful, but also indicate that it's so deadly, send up a real ass smell.
Oh yeah.
So the geysers are incredibly beautiful. Old Faithful is the most famous one, but it's surrounded by this beautiful geyser basin. And it all smells like a big fart.
Whoa. So that's like the world's butthole?
Yes.
So I have another smell here. We've pulled this out a couple times throughout the history of this podcast, but I'm wondering, obviously deer it's more of an elk presence than a deer presence in Yellowstone, right?
Yeah, there are some deer, but definitely elk, bison, bears. Those are the big ones. Eagles.
Oh, nice. You couldn't.
Nice.
Eagles.
I love the Eagles, man.
Anthony is currently trying to unscrew the top of.
I have.
Is this deer pheromones?
It's deer
Yes.
pheromones. So
Can I tell you how bison attract mates?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So a bison, this is my favorite. Well, bison are my favorite animals in the park. They're so majestic and wonderful. And they'll run straight at your car. They can run at about 30 miles an hour, and seeing them run is really amazing because they're like big round barrels, but they're really, really fast.
They're machines. They like pump out steam, basically.
Yeah, they're so cool. And to attract females, male bison will dig a hole, pee in it, and then they'll roll around in the dirty pee. And they'll try to kick up the biggest dust cloud that they can. And they'll try to show the women, like, look at how strong I am. I'm making the biggest dust cloud. And they're coating themselves in their own pee as like a pheromone to attract the females, and as like, oh, I'm marking my territory. This is my pee hole and no one else's. So that's my favorite.
Wow.
One of my favorite animal facts.
I wish that I could pee and it be like a good thing. Like I wish I could pee on myself and it's like, it helps me.
And you roll around in it.
I know. Like you actually have fun doing it.
Plus, you get to kick up the biggest cloud. So another guy sees your cloud down the street.
Damn.
He knows, damn, we got a player down here.
But let's all remember while we're talking about the biggest clouds, vaping, not even once.
Do not vape.
Do not vape. Well, I did just want to get your opinion on this smell. Does this smell anything like what you would be?
Don't spray it.
Don't spray it. Just take a little.
Well,
sniff.
I don't think I've ever smelled deer pheromones, and also I'm not a female bison, so I wasn't smelling. Ugh.
Yeah.
It just smells like pee.
And that's it is a bottle of deer pee.
It's about a year old too.
Yeah, it's been stinking in this room for a while.
Ooh, 4-year-old deer pee. So your parents left you in the back country with a bottle of deer pee and nothing else?
Oh, well, they did give us a bunch of raw meat to drag around by our ankles.
Bears love to attack kids, clearly.
We'll be fine.
We have to rate this smell segment out of something.
Okay.
Anthony, you got something.
Out of the 5 boroughs of Yellowstone National Park, how many would you rank this smell?
Based on its relevancy or, really whatever category you want to base it off of.
The bug spray smell?
The bug spray smell.
I'll give it 4 out of 5 boroughs.
Wow. Okay, excellent. That's a really, really good score, I'd say. Okay, cool. Well, we're going to move on to our next regular segment where we explore Yellowstone, not with our sniffers, but with our ears. Stuart?
That's right. Laura, you heard me talking about satellite radio, Sirius satellite radio earlier, and it's because I'm a bit of an audio freak, okay? Normally on the podcast, I have an audio segment, but today, for our fantastic host here in the Yellowstone cabin, I prepared a couple of interesting sounds to represent each of the states that Yellowstone is a part of.
You could call it a trail mix.
Oh my God. Is that the joke?
That's the joke that I was talking about before the podcast, and I made it, and I feel really good about it.
Whoa. Okay.
So Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho.
That's right. Thank you for moving us along, Laura. We're going to start with a piece of audio from Montana. Now, Camden, if you would, hit play.
Prepare audience for maximum impact.
Audience engaged for full immersion.
The world's most immersive movie experience begins now.
What the
Fuck was that, man?
And that was Montana?
That was the Montana sound segment. Of course, that was the opening little sounds of the IMAX theater found in the Yellowstone Giant Screen Theater.
Does Yellowstone have a theater?
It does. Up in the Montana area. It's located at the west entrance of the Yellowstone National Park. It's known as the Giant Screen Theater, and it's a must-see on your travel itinerary.
Wow.
Huh.
What kind of films do they show there?
Well, they have one constantly playing Yellowstone movie that's like this incredible big IMAX showing of all the incredible nature, the history of the park. But then, interestingly enough, they also have showings of Sonic the Hedgehog at 4:30 and 7:30. So both two nature-themed movies.
Seems very silly to have a movie about Yellowstone playing in Yellowstone.
I agree. It kind of seems like you've made the sale if people are already there. I don't
Yeah.
think it's going to change any minds.
If you're in the west entrance, just keep going.
Yeah, it sounds like people are so desperate for screen time that they just need.
I can't blame them. At 6 stories tall, the 60 by 80 screen is the only certified giant screen theater in a 12-state area.
6 stories tall. That seems like too much.
It's just enough. You don't want to miss a single fur on that hedgehog's back.
You know, I'm wrong. It was a porcupine. There was a porcupine living outside my dorm for a while, which are really cute in real life because their spines lie flat on their bodies like fur and they look really soft.
They walk around like
They
dingly,
totally
you know?
waddle. It's really cute. And this one porcupine would try to eat our dorm stairs because we would salt them for the ice. Because again, it would get really snowy and icy really quick. So you'd wake up and there would be a porcupine licking the stairs. It's pretty cute.
That's so cute.
Wow, that sounds incredibly cute. It sounds almost as nice as the 6-track sound system and 4K digital projector guarantee that a theater experience will be had like none before.
Wow.
You know, a lot of movie stars live in or have homes in Bozeman, Montana.
Oh, yeah.
So one of my coworkers has gone to the hardware store and seen Meg Ryan.
What was she buying? What was Meg Ryan buying?
I think like 2x4s. I think she and her husband were working on a project.
I hope you ain't lying.
You know,
I'm not. My coworker, I would never. My coworker saw Meg Ryan at the Bozeman, Montana Ace Hardware, and that's the absolute truth. Also, Justin Timberlake has a house up there.
Yeah.
And Bozeman is trying to crack down on underage drinking because it's a real problem. It's a big college town.
Yeah.
So everyone has to show an ID before they get into clubs. So Justin Timberlake is famously, this is another coworker, was working as a bouncer at a club and had to turn Justin Timberlake away from the door because he didn't have his ID on him.
Hey,
Wow.
bring your ID, Justin.
guess you can stop the feeling, huh?
As if the Yellowstone area didn't already have enough timber and lakes.
You know who?
I like that one.
You know who else lives in Bozeman?
I don't know who.
Chadwick.
Okay, cool. Well, no stop would be complete without visiting the gift shop of the Giant Screen Theater. In addition to most of the theater's movies and soundtracks on DVD and CD, they offer many unique gifts and keepsakes, from t-shirts to fine art sculptures and huckleberry gourmet treats.
There's a lot of huckleberry stuff in all the gift shops. I love the gift shops, partly because they're the only places to go to buy anything. So I would have to go to buy like ibuprofen
At a gift shop.
in the gift shops. But I have a stuffed bison from the gift shops that's really cute.
Aw.
And I also have my Yellowstone shirt that I wore today.
Yeah.
Almost like I guessed you guys would be coming.
Well, haunting, considering we were lost here just a bit ago.
Almost like I felt it. There's also, in one of the gift shops, I think it might be at Old Faithful, there's a full-size stuffed bear dressed as Teddy Roosevelt. And it has...
Like, is it a real bear or is it like a teddy bear?
It's like a teddy bear that is like 10 feet tall, like the size of a real bear. And it has a little name tag that says Teddy Roosevelt. And it has the hat and the glasses.
10
That
feet
rocks.
tall. That's 1/6 of the giant screen theater.
You know, I consider myself pretty knowledgeable about the park, and I've never heard of this theater.
Well, these are only going to become more recognizable.
Great.
That's actually true. Not a joke. Camden, before we play this next clip, I just want to get you guys ready. This is the statement of a man talking about his stay at the location we're going to be talking about for Idaho. But it's just, I don't know, it's very sad. So go for it.
Really active night, you know, it was nuts. All night long we heard bugling from the elk, the coyotes were going nuts, and I'm not quite sure, but I would suspect that one of the calf were taken last night, and the elk weren't happy, and the coyote had a big party.
The rare trumpeter swan is the largest wild bird in North America.
This man sounds very happy that a little baby animal got eaten.
Yeah, he seemed pretty joyous about it. But here, I want to defend him on this. I think there is no evil in the animal world, and so there's no reason not to be happy or sad about the perfect natural cycle that is predator-prey. Isn't that right, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'm an empathetic person. I wouldn't want to see a baby get eaten of any animal species.
Yeah,
I'd
I think
feel
it's
really
possible
bad.
to appreciate the circle of life without being joyful that a baby got murdered.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. We'll have to disagree on this one.
I do want to point out that guy mentioned nuts twice, so maybe this is a trail mix.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
I'm just saying.
I know you were just saying, and I'm just saying that piece of audio was from a man staying overnight in Island Park.
Sure.
There are islands in Yellowstone?
Oh, that's where you're wrong, Tim. You see, well, there might be, but the Island Park was named after the islands sort of like in the middle of the forest. So it's essentially like, here, I have the natural thing. It's named after the natural clearings found there in the middle of otherwise dense forest. In the 1940s, they used to say, find a clearing, take a break, kiss your honey, and grab a shake. It was kind of the thing that you would do there, but it would be a large clearing in the woods that you could go to and would feel like an island amongst the trees.
Ah, nice.
Yep, just 15 miles outside the park. This lovely little town only has about 400 residents, but it's home to tens of thousands of tourists every year as they travel through and on to the rest of the park. Speaking of classic Americana, like grabbing a shake with your honey in a clearing, the island also boasts the longest main street in America, 33 miles long. That'd be a tough one to hitchhike down, right?
So there's 400 residents with a 30-mile main street?
Yeah, 33 miles long. I think it's called Main Street, and there's just like 4 or 5 gas stations among that road.
Wow.
Well, the town also features a historical site known as Johnny Sack's Cabin, or the Dwarf's Water Wheel. Built in the 1930s by a 4'11" German immigrant hermit, this water wheel is still functioning today and is a National Historical Landmark.
Wow.
Laura, you ever been?
No.
Okay. What if I told you that this town also famous for geocaching?
Oh. Geocaching is big. I am fine with hiking and just looking at mountains and...
Are you saying you don't need a reward for hiking?
Yeah, I'm saying I don't need to find a treasure that an internet stranger has buried there, but geocaching's big. People love it. Nothing wrong with that.
Aren't there like famous buried treasures in Yellowstone? Like
you mean other than just like all of the people who were murdered and buried there?
Yeah, no. I'm talking about like money.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Because I know that there's a guy who like does these, I don't know, large scale like treasure hunts across the United States. And I think like one of the clues points the thing to Yellowstone, like somewhere in the large park of Yellowstone.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, Yellowstone, something really cool about it is on the surface, it's 3,000 miles of beautiful historic park. And then there's so much to know about it. Like this book, Death in Yellowstone, that I...
Did you write this book?
No, some man wrote it in the 70s. That, there's so many specific things to learn. Like there's entire books about ghosts in Yellowstone and like hauntings.
Whoa.
There's whole books about like all of the Native American tribes who have lived there over the years and still do. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's like whole books written about the treasure.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Man.
Hey, written in the 70s, there's 50 more years of death that you could write about.
Sad.
Yeah.
Sad to think about.
Yeah, people die here a lot.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, while we might not be finding any gold treasure, I do think we're starting to stumble upon the treasure of friendship during this segment. I'll see how you guys feel a little bit later. Camden, why don't you go ahead and play that audio segment for Wyoming, the third of Yellowstone's State Triumvirate. Laura, did you recognize that?
Was it a person jumping in a lake?
Sure. A good guess. Anthony?
Wait, which state was this for?
This was for Wyoming.
Oh, man.
We could hear it again, I'm sure.
Is this the sound of someone being baptized wearing a GoPro?
Oh, that's a good guess as well. Tim, do you know what it is?
Is it a geyser?
Yes! That was, of course, sound from the Old Faithful geyser going off.
Oh.
Yes. You see, Old Faithful is a cone geyser located in Yellowstone National Park in the Wyoming section as well. Don't flip me off, Anthony. There are only so many things in Yellowstone to talk about. It was named in 1870 during the Washburn-Langford Doan expedition. I'm sure you know about this, Laura.
No.
Okay, and it was also the first geyser in the park to receive a name. The other ones have been named since then. Stop flipping me off.
Did the Langford Doan expedition find any glazed donuts?
Go sit outside the shed.
You can't keep sending people outside, Laura. It'll just be you and me.
Don't tell me what to do in my own shed.
Well, the geyser's eruptions go off like clockwork, which is where its name comes from. It's always, you can always trust this geyser to go off. That is bad clockwork because they go off between every 44 to 120 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's imperfect. So Old Faithful is really cool. It's probably the most developed borough in the park because it's the most famous. So there's a really beautiful Old Faithful Inn, which is like a historic hotel there, which has a deck where you can watch the geyser go off.
Ooh.
I forget what the question was.
No question.
I keep beginning to speak and then losing my train of thought.
Well, when we're in such a beautiful locale, it's easy to see that your mind would get lost amongst the trees.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, the timing is indistinct. So in the Old Faithful Inn, they have a really giant, like old, beautiful clock that is supposed to mark whenever the geyser goes off. But yeah, it's imperfect because it's a geyser in its nature.
Well, apparently also there was an earthquake in the late 80s that like changed up the timing of it significantly.
Oh.
So local
cool.
changes will cause it to go much longer or much shorter. But you can always track when the next one will happen depending on how long the last geyser explosion or whatever was.
Yeah, there's a lot of tracking and math going on. And so you can hike around the geyser basin that surrounds Old Faithful. There is these wooden movable paths that the rangers will set up every day, and they move them based on activity in the ground. So there are parts of the ground that you shouldn't walk on because your feet will break through into the boiling water below, which is another way a lot of people have died. And back in the 1800s when it first opened, women wore these big, huge dresses with lots of underskirts as well. So back then women would be dragged down, their skirts would get a little bit wet and then they would be dragged into the boiling pools. So basically the rangers move the paths around every day and you have to stay on the paths.
Depending on the active danger. I also read that apparently old timey folk would put in some of their laundry into the hole and it would get shot out clean an hour and a half later.
That's fucking dope.
Kind of ways to tempt fate.
We've talked a little bit about how when tourists come in, they're not used to, all the changes that nature has to offer. Are there a lot of people coming around and being impatient about seeing the geyser going off and complaining?
Oh, yes. I mean, and this was one of my biggest takeaways from the park was it really is a lesson in I'm so small and I'm compared to nature have so little power. And people come in and they're really, really frustrated by it. So yeah, people totally do expect Old Faithful to go off like clockwork, or like tourists will ask when we let all the animals out.
No way. Did they really?
Oh,
when
yeah.
will the show begin,
Wow.
ma'am?
Exactly.
That's out of touch.
Or, a reason a lot of animal injuries happen is people going right up to bears or bison thinking they're tame.
Well, we talked about that video came out recently, and I think it was shot in Yellowstone, where like a dad and daughter just walked up to a bison to take pictures next to it. And then the bison like started getting a little aggro with them, which is what a bison would do. It's an animal. And then like it like hit this little girl so hard, she like flew out of the screen. Like
there's a lot of videos of people getting thrown around by bison, which I cannot watch, but it definitely happens.
You say you cannot watch because there's no internet here, right?
Well,
you wish you could watch.
They'll play them on like the TVs at the visitor centers, or like for some reason, one time in the employee dining hall, they were playing all these videos of people getting thrown around by bison. But I can't watch them just because it's so awful. Like people really get seriously hurt. And bison, in addition to being super huge and super strong, they have these horns, so they can also like gore people and stab people. Or bear injuries too happen a lot because people think they're cute. Or up until like the 70s or 80s, people would give their trash to bears. Like the hotels would have these famous shows where they would throw out all the like leftover hotel food, and people could like pay admission to come see the bears like eat all the trash.
That sounds really green.
Yeah. Well, there's
no waste.
Well, there's crazy. Everyone should Google next time you're around the internet. There's pictures of bears going up to cars from the 70s, like Yellowstone bear car pictures, where people would just feed bears. So there's like bears on their hind legs standing up to people's car windows. There's also a famous case of a death. And this is from like the 30s. So this is a long time ago, but it still is a thing that happens, where this woman like claimed to have a tame black bear. And she like gave a display to a bunch of people. She like put on a show of her feeding her quote unquote tame black bear some food. But the bear like stood up on its hind legs to get the food, and then it brought its paws down on her shoulders like it would to another bear.
Oh, no, did it?
They were so strong that it killed her.
Wow.
She was squished.
She was killed by the black bear. So
good Lord.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of things that are extremely strong and large, the blast of the Old Faithful geyser can reach up to 185 feet in the air and can discharge up to 8,400 gallons of water at once.
Get out of here with your facts.
Sounds like you're competing segments right
I've
now.
got facts for you. The coordinates of Old Faithful are 44.46046 north, 110.82815 west. Does that sound about right, Laura?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and while it isn't the biggest or tallest liquid shooter in the park, that being Steamboat Geyser.
Ooh, I don't love the phrase liquid shooter.
Yikes. But Old Faithful is the most predictable in the park, and to put it in relationship terms, I'll take predictable over random power every time.
Aren't you a child?
Yeah, I'm a baby boy, and my parents will be here soon.
Idea for an injury prevention PSA. No enticing the bison.
Ooh, that's good.
That is pretty good.
I really love that.
Yeah?
I got a fact for you, Stuart.
Okay.
This segment's gone on too long.
Well, I have like the final part of it, and it's fun, and the energy's going to be through the roof at the end of it. Guys, really quick, we're just going to go through a couple of sounds that you will hear, absolutely you will hear in the Yellowstone National Park. And as a group, you guys are going to give me what you think the sound is. Just give me a guess, okay? So this first one, pretty easy. Camden, could you play clip one? Whoa. Anthony?
Is that a coyote?
Laura?
To me, it sounds like a dog chicken.
Okay.
Yeah,
Tim?
to me it sounds like a roaring boar.
Okay, well, that was the easiest one on this list. So that was a wolf.
Oh, okay.
Howling, as wolves do.
I imagine like a nice octave for a wolf, like an ow. not like a.
Well, see, no, you were right about that because that was an alpha wolf apparently warning his pack of danger in the area, as opposed to a normal howl, which I think is just sort of like, "Hey, we're wolves over here," kind of thing. You know?
Hey, we're wolves over here.
Wolves over here, the burrows.
Tim may be the older statesman of the podcast, but I'm pretty sure I'm the alpha wolf of this podcast.
God, what was that? Okay, we gotta keep moving on, guys. So our second piece of audio.
I didn't know we had a liquid shooter here.
Stop! Leave him out of this. Let's move on. Camden, we're gonna hear our second clip, and guys, I'll get your guesses right afterwards. Camden, hit it. Interesting. Tim, what do you think?
I'm going to say it's a little mockingbird.
Ha. Anthony?
Baby bald eagle.
Baby bald eagle. And Laura?
Some kind of bird.
Unfortunately, Laura is the most correct on the list. It was a bald eagle.
Whoa, full size?
Yeah. Full-size bald eagles sound like baby birds of other species.
Interesting.
Whenever you see a bald eagle on screen, interestingly enough, you're hearing the call of the red hawk, I believe. Which is that like, yeah, that thing that you know. Actual bald eagles just sound like kind of like.
This week on Stuart Ruins Everything.
Come on, man. Stay off my hair. Okay, let's get to our third clip. This one is going to be near impossible. Camden, hit it.
Oh, I think I know.
What did you guys think that was? We'll start with you, Laura.
Was it Yellowstone Lake or Yellowstone River?
That's where the video was shot. But
was that not the question?
Nope. There's an animal involved.
I think I know what it is.
Uh-huh.
A trout.
Anthony's correct.
Yeah.
That was a cutthroat trout, a species native to Yellowstone Park. Pretty nice fish, huh?
Yeah, I hate backstabbing fish, though.
Jesus Christ. Let's just move on to the fourth clip.
Just
guys,
a competitive fish.
Speaking of competition, let's hear clip 4. There it is. There's another one. There it is. Okay, turn it off.
I have a guess.
I want you to tell us your guess.
Is it mountain goats?
Ooh, you are very close. Do you care to change that up just slightly?
I don't think I know how. I don't have another guess. Something similar to a mountain goat smashing their horns together.
Okay, that's the part you have, and it's very similar to a mountain goat. But let me put it in this term. The first word of this animal is what you've been describing Yellowstone as this entire podcast.
Park? Forest?
Big.
Big?
A bighorn sheep, of course.
Oh.
Yeah, so what you were hearing there was the sheep smashing their heads together, you know?
Yes, I've seen the bighorn sheep at Mammoth.
It is very loud.
They're really cool.
Yeah, they sound like little gunshots. And the way they hit their heads together is they like jump back on their back like legs and sort of just like waddle towards each other for a second and then like fall into each other. It's crazy. It's crazy, guys. Nature is wild. Well, we've got 2 more clips. And they are both.
Are you serious?
Camden, hit the next clip. What is this? That was it. Okay, turn it down. What was that? Anthony.
How about this? Was that a porcupine squeaking?
No. Tim, what was it?
That's my geocaching app going off.
You were getting closer. This thing is found in the ground. Laura?
Is it like a mouse of some kind?
Very close. That is, of course, a yellow-bellied marmot. Okay.
What's a marmot look like? Is it like a prairie dog situation?
It's very similar to a prairie dog, a little bit fatter in the hips.
Okay.
When you call somebody a yellow belly, is that an insult?
It is, yeah.
It means they're a coward.
Yeah. And these marmots are called that because they are, the second you get anywhere near them or any sound goes off, they duck underground really quickly.
It's probably how they survive. Huh?
Most likely, that is what nature all about. Well, we've finally reached our final clip of the sound segment. And this is one that I want to leave, I don't want to say a thing about because this is one of the most important residents of Yellowstone National Park.
The audience is ready for a screen experience like they've never seen before.
No. Camden, do it.
You think you got problems? You take a good look, pal. How bad could it be, right? I don't think you... Okay, pal. Take it easy. No. Don't go out there. Hey, what? I said stop, you fruitcake. No. Come
We
close.
can turn it down.
That's fine.
You want this playing in the background?
Anybody recognize that?
Is that Yogi Bear?
No. Laura, who do you think that was?
I have no idea.
Okay, Anthony?
Was that Rocky and Bullwinkle?
Oh, no, all wrong, guys. I'm sorry, but this one, a famous man made of Yellowstone. That's right, Ben Grimm, the Thing from Fantastic Four. Laura is looking genuinely unhappy and confused.
That's orange.
Yeah,
Stone.
Yeah, he's mostly orange, but we talked about the color wheel earlier. They're very close.
Fuck you.
That's the end of my segment. So, Laura, out of the 5 boroughs of the park, how many boroughs are you going to give me for that sound segment? We went from IMAX to I Rock.
It was very well researched. So 4 out of 5 boroughs.
Yeah. Wow. Tim and I did just as well. That's crazy.
Honestly, that is just crazy. Okay, well, we explored Yellowstone with our listeners, not you across the mic, but our ears. And we've explored Yellowstone with our sniffers. So we're going to move on to our next regular segment where we explore Yellowstone with our mouths. What I prepared for you all today is the only thing that my mom left me when she dropped us off at in this place, and it's just a big old bag of trail mix, guys.
Oh.
Nice Rainbow's End trail mix from Trader Joe's, and I'm not talking about the trail mix that we just listened to, but something that we're about to put in our mouths.
Yo, big shout out, rest in peace to the original Trader Joe, died this week. Sad stuff.
What?
Yeah, the Joe in Trader Joe's passed
Yeah,
away this
the
week.
founder of Trader Joe's died.
Oh, wow. That's really too bad. I love Trader Joe's. Definitely one of my favorite grocery stores.
Well,
around
you
here.
must have brought that from a couple states away because the only
Long-
grocery store close to the park is Walmart.
Oh,
Did you ever actually eat trail mix while while you're walking around?
Yes.
Or do you rather?
Yes, I do.
It's a good way to keep your energy up, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, you need to eat a lot if you're going to hike up mountains. You got to give your body fuel.
Oh, absolutely. And what could be better fuel than all these nuts?
What was your trail mix? This one contains some peanuts, some almonds, some M&Ms, and I think some raisins.
Well, I usually ate at the employee dining hall, which is kind of like a sad college cafeteria. And I ate a lot of salad because I'm vegetarian, and there was everything was mostly meat. It's a lot of sad cafeteria salads.
Did they have an all-you-can-eat trail mix section?
No.
Oh,
Dang.
bad
So
park.
you lived off of salad while you were at Yellowstone?
Oh, not entirely. I'm sure I ate some other things. Yeah, probably some trail mix. I had a coffee maker in my cabin. I had a coffee maker in a mini fridge, not to brag.
Whoa.
Shit. Wait, in the cabin we're in right now?
And yes, I meant I
Can you just
have.
point to the menu?
Yeah, if you look on the wall. Though,
Oh, there it is.
You have to keep your food off the ground, though, because a lot of the cabins get mice. So
that's fun to have a friend.
No.
No.
It's really not.
I don't want a mouse unless I've got internet.
Aren't you supposed to be outside?
Go outside.
If you were to get lost in Yellowstone, do you think it would be possible to forage for food? Or would you have to hunt?
So there's people who are really, really knowledgeable about hiking in the backcountry, who like devote their whole lives to it. Like the guy who kind of finally convinced me to come to the park is someone who works in HR, who spent like his entire 20s and 30s like hiking through the backcountry. And hiking in the backcountry just means that you're hiking off trail. So there's like hiking trails you can go on, but then if you really know what you're doing, you can just like go into the forest. So you know what? And in addition to like what I'm talking about is like white people colonizing the park, but even before that, like Native Americans live here for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Mhm.
So definitely if you know your stuff, you can sustain yourself in the park. I don't know enough to do it, but.
Wow. Is it true if you work in human resources at Yellowstone, you call it HR?
Man, you really do need to be outside, dude.
Well,
God
I've got something
damn.
that I think could redeem it. Would you call a person who has kind of survived in the park their entire life, living off of the nature around them, like sort of a Forrest Gump type person?
Forrest
Oh,
Gump.
I'm going to throw up.
No, don't. The mice will eat it.
I'm going to recede to an old joke because I need to get this one out before I go crazy. But when you went to Walmart, you would pick up a bunch of gum for people, so it would be like your Forrest Gum.
Why?
Wait,
Why two Forrest Gump jokes?
Yeah, I also don't quite.
Well, no, you had
We weren't even
Forrest-
really talking about gum.
You had Forrest Gump, and then I have
I get the
Forrest
joke,
Gum.
Tim. Look, all right, we need to move forward. We just ate a bunch of trail mix. Is this, what other tastes might you associate with the park?
My favorite Forrest Gump is wintergreen.
No, get out of here.
Well, like you said, there's a lot of huckleberry stuff. So in almost every gift shop, there's like huckleberry maple syrup or like huckleberry hard candy or like some type of huckleberry liqueur.
So are there like a bunch of huckleberries in the park? Is that the idea? Or
I guess so. I didn't ever see like a huckleberry bush, but I guess it's something that the park is known for.
I've definitely heard of Huckleberry Finn, but Huckleberry for the win?
Shut up. Do you like huckleberry? Is that a taste you enjoy?
Every once in a while they would have like a huckleberry salad dressing. So I guess I ate it then. And we would have a weekly ice cream night in the dorm, like that the RAs hosted. So every Wednesday we would have ice cream in the lobby, which was pretty nice. And we had elderberry ice cream.
Whoa.
But I didn't eat a ton of huckleberries. The huckleberries weren't a huge part of my experience.
Tim and Stu, Cam did even. Do you guys have extensive huckleberry experience?
I have never tasted a huckleberry, but I do like soy. Or
Stu, how about you?
No, I don't.
No,
I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, we have to rate this. We have to rate my trail mix out of 5 burrows.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm giving it 5 out of 5. I wish I'd been giving 5 out of 5 from the beginning because now I feel like I am somehow judging the other segments, but
You quite literally are judging
I
the
know.
segments. That's the idea.
I'm changing my previous 2 to 5 out of 5.
Whoa!
Everyone's getting 5 out of 5.
That's right. My Ben Grimm audio clip got 5 out of 5.
I think you need to play it one more time. Awesome. Well, we've achieved a 5 out of 5 on all 3 of our segments thus far. So we're going to move on to our next regular segment where we explore Yellowstone, not with our mouths, not with our listeners, not you across the mic. I'm talking about our ears, but or with our, what's the last one? Our noses. We're going to move on to exploring Yellowstone with our eyes. Anthony, why don't you take it away?
Here we have the visual segment I've prepared. I was going to take a bunch of pictures on this trip. That was the main reason I came out here, but my camera died.
No.
So I had to assemble it based on the photos that I could find on, not the internet.
Right, you scanned these out of books earlier.
In books, for sure.
Okay.
So this is a collection of images, and I really hope that it speaks to you. Starting with this first slide, guys, what are we seeing here?
Laura, why don't you go ahead and describe what we're seeing?
I would say we are seeing the word Yellowstone.
Yeah, hell yeah, on a yellow background.
And
that's right.
And it looks like you've chosen a different font that's not Times New Roman. Anthony, what is this font?
It's Impact.
I was going to say it looks like Impact.
It certainly looks like Impact.
Man, I hope we don't get memed on this episode, right?
No, I chose Impact to represent the environmental impact of having a national park. Let's move on to the next
Really
slide.
good stuff.
All right, here's where our journey begins. The Roosevelt Arch.
Yep, that's the arch.
Hell yeah. And not the golden arches that you might find a town over. This is the arch constructed in 1903 to welcome visitors to the north entrance of Yellowstone in Gardner, Montana.
Yep, Gardner. That's where you go to get your employee ID and your uniforms.
Ooh,
Hell yeah.
wow. So what was your uniform?
A green shirt.
Green shirt. Hell yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So this arch is inscribed for the benefit and enjoyment of the people. which is a quote from the Organic Act of 1872, which designated Yellowstone as a national park.
Yep.
The cornerstone was laid by Teddy Roosevelt himself, not the president, that bear.
No. Certainly you could. You must be kidding.
My favorite Teddy Roosevelt fact is that, and I think someone should make a movie about this.
Mm-hmm.
He had a male hiking partner who he would escape into the parks with for like months at a time. Like he would leave his wife and the White House to go into, well, at first Yellowstone, and then as he founded other national parks, like other areas, but he and this male friend would go and just adventure, just the two of them in the backcountry. And I love that.
That does sound really cute.
I love thinking
Maybe
about
I'm
that.
putting the wrong spin on this, but it does sound like he had like a secret sort of love getaway in the mountains.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's so hot. That's awesome. Like, please make this movie about
Yeah.
the president who's like, I just got to get away from Washington, D.C. for a few months.
Especially the president that like many people consider the most like classically masculine.
Fuck
You know,
yeah.
I think that's really important to
Change
like
that shit
recognize
up.
that. Yeah, because I think that, you know, flies in the face of what a lot of people
Yeah.
like have used his image for in the past.
Not
And I
your
think that's really
traditional
interesting.
bears. That's, yes, sir.
Hell yeah.
Roosevelt felt something.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So that's a rhyme.
Yeah.
Well, this arch, guys, I think this is a really interesting thing, and I think it's a really interesting border for this park. It's really symbolic, and it almost is like a triumphal arch that you might find in like Rome. So I think it's a really beautiful structure.
I like how it says for the benefit and enjoyment of the people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a great quote. Just like this podcast, huh?
Hell yeah. So you of course have entered through this archway.
Yeah. How I got here is I flew into Bozeman and then took a bus with all the other new employees. And the bus takes you to Gardner, where you get your ID and your uniform. As I was saying, I got a green polo shirt. Green shirt. XL, by the way. A large. Not a lot of size variety. So most days in the park, you could find me in a men's XL green polo shirt. If you could picture it. Yeah, and then we drove through this arch and then got slowly dropped off at our different boroughs we worked in.
Hell yeah. Well, why don't we move on to the next slide? Old Faithful. Now, we heard all about it already.
Why would you want to see it?
This is a gorgeous shot. Absolutely amazing. You can see the water flying into the air. You can see those movable walkways that you were referencing before.
Yep.
And you can see some cabins much like the ones that we're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
But Stu got all my facts out. So we could just talk about the visual beauty. What do you think of the site?
I kind of want to specifically talk about, this is something that I've seen online pop up in videos. It seems like every summer, but tourists coming from places that don't necessarily have the same like reverence for nature and natural areas when they come into natural parks, just walking off of those walkways and getting as close to this geyser as they can and having people go like,
silly.
Walk out, don't do that! Come back here! And they're like, hey, fuck you. You
No
know?
matter where you're from. I mean, yeah, Americans
Are dum-dums?
all truly cannot express enough how people come into Yellowstone and assume that it's a safe environment that was created for them.
Yeah.
Truly, your feet can break right through the ground and you can be boiled alive.
Fucking terrifying.
It's really
like an egg.
like a hard-boiled egg.
Have we actually talked about the height of the geyser itself?
No, I don't think so.
Yes, I mentioned it before, and I was
Oh.
drowned out.
In a
because of-
different segment?
Yeah. So its eruption can reach up to 185 feet in the air.
Lord.
Now, is that shorter or taller than the screen at the
I think that's three times
That's
as
three
tall.
times the screen.
the screen at the movie
Unbelievable.
theater?
But what's fun is like when people think of Old Faithful, they think of this mountain that comes out of the ground. Homie's only like 4 feet tall.
Yeah, it is like a tiny little thing, isn't it? There's these like, they're calcium deposit hills or what they are.
It's just like
that
this
they
little
come out of?
mound.
Yeah, there's like a little almost pitcher's mound looking type thing.
Hmm.
So, like you were saying, it's surrounded by other geysers. It's in a geyser basin. So, it's kind of hard to tell. All the geysers are labeled. They're all named, which I think is kind of cool. There's like heart geyser, depression geyser.
Aw.
Yeah, there's
Where's
one.
anxiety geyser?
The smallest
That is
eruption.
exactly the joke that I made when I saw depression.
Fuck yeah.
big green T-shirt, making jokes. This sounds like a good time.
Well, yeah. I mean, people underestimate the force of this geyser based on its size, so it's kind of the Yoda of the geyser system.
What is this?
Why don't we move on to the next slide? Here we have
Grand Prismatic.
Hell fucking yeah. Yes. Grand Prismatic Spring at approximately 370 feet in diameter and 160 feet deep. The Grand Prismatic Spring is the largest hot spring in the U.S. and the third largest in the entire world.
Wow.
It's named for its bright, distinct colors caused by microbial mats in the mineral-rich water.
That's the bacteria we were talking about.
They like it a heat.
And its average temperature is about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And it discharges about 560 gallons of water a minute.
Yeah, Grand Prismatic is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow, talk about a liquid shooter.
I think
really more of a pool.
Yeah.
More like a liquid dribbly.
I think, listeners, you've got to get on this Patreon so you can see this slide. It's one of the most colorful pools ever. It's smack dab in the middle of like this gorgeous like valley situation as well.
Yeah.
And the colors are so rich. Like there's bright orange, there's a yellow ring, there's a little tinge of green, and then there's deep blue.
I mean, what's so crazy about like you have to think about how much microbial life is living inside of this thing.
Yeah.
Like I've heard of a dead pool, but this is an alive pool.
Okay. Yeah, all of these hot pools, and especially Grand Prismatic is like the most famous, most beautiful hot pool. And there's like these colors that are like cartoonish almost. Like they look like they shouldn't exist in nature.
Yeah.
And they're all because of bacteria, which I love. I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
You said it discharges water?
Yeah,
but under it, right? Like the water's flowing out the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Water flowing underground. Same as it ever was.
So when we say that like there's areas where your foot could break through, there's like water under all this land. There's like water under the ground, and then there's breaks where you can see the pools, and then where too much pressure has built up, that's where the geysers are.
See, my dumb brain like sees this, and if it didn't know that it was full of bacteria and super, super hot, I would be totally trying to take a dip in this.
I would dive head first into this.
And
bad
people
boy.
do, and then they get their hands boiled off.
But like looking at this looks like a cartoon pool that's like the best pool in town.
And
like,
it really does look like that. There's like a mountain sort of from the angle of where we're looking at this picture, and it's like a 1.5 mile hike up, and you can hike up and then look at it from above.
Damn.
It's very cool.
Yeah, especially with the sunlight hitting right onto it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe we all jump in there.
It's like the most beautiful bacteria-filled death pool in the world.
Hell yeah. Well, why don't we move on to the next slide and see Mammoth Hot Springs.
Ooh.
A complex of hot springs formed by thousands of years of calcium carbonate buildup, creating a limestone substance called travertine. Algae has turned the travertine different colors over the years, and each pool sits at roughly, any guesses? How many degrees Fahrenheit?
200.
Anyone else?
I don't know.
I'll guess 415.
That's a ton.
I don't know.
170.
Oh.
So about...
And what's boiling? Is boiling 120?
212.
Is that a basic fact that everyone knows?
Well, 120 is like a really hot tub.
Oh.
My friend Trevor hasn't been a teen for a long time.
Stop. You stop it.
God damn.
Trevor.
I've never heard
My friend Trevor.
Guys, I think this is a really interesting, gorgeous slide. It's really kind of ominous in a way. The colors that are left behind by those deposits of the like limestone sort of substance are kind of like brownish orange, and then the running water just makes it look like almost salty.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was running water. It looks like, I thought it was
Salt.
like marble, salt or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, these definitely aren't the kind of deposits you can take to a bank, but they are priceless in my book.
Have you ever been you've been to Mammoth, correct?
Yeah, I've been to Mammoth.
And
yes.
yeah, it's pretty gorgeous.
Yeah, Mammoth's really beautiful. I think that is the place where the dog jumped in the pool. The man jumped in after it.
Dang.
Are his hands still there?
No.
Jesus Christ.
No, there aren't 2 skin hands in the other pool.
Maybe, you know.
But there is, so there is a specific pool where it happened. You can look up the name of the pool. And I saw the pool, which was really a sobering experience. Like, oh, a man and a dog died here.
Oh, man.
But yeah, that's at Mammoth Hot Springs, I think.
Yeah. Damn.
Dang.
Well, mammoth in scale, let's move on to the next slide. Firehole River, a 21-mile long river in Yellowstone, which is a tributary of the Madison River and part of the Missouri River system, Tim. It was named by trappers who thought that the river was on fire when they saw steam rising from its waters due to the geothermal features that warm its water. Camden, you're very familiar with rivers being on fire, right?
Yes, you must be referring to the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland, Ohio, that famously can catch fire.
The water typically reaches about 86 degrees Fahrenheit, which sounds totally manageable compared to these other ones. And that bodes well for tourists because you actually can jump in on this one.
Yeah, that sounds quite nice, actually.
There are lots of photos that I saw. And when we were walking by it earlier, I did see all those people taking a dip.
Yeah.
I went in a fast-moving river. I don't know if it was this particular river, but yeah, it's really crazy because, yeah, like you said, there's superheated water coming from under the ground from thermal features, but then there's also just regular cold river water. So there's like hot and cold both at once.
Wow.
So you can like be standing in one part of the water and be like almost burning your legs and then move over like a couple inches and be like freezing cold. And there's also a lot of slippy, slidey rocks. So it was really...
Well, it sounds like too much fun.
Yeah, it was really... I'm glad I did it, but it was kind of hard to be in a hot, cold, slippery river.
Damn. Well, it sounds like Katy Perry could get some mileage about singing about this river.
Did you say this place was called Firehole?
Oh.
I was going to say hot and cold, but also Firehole. Guys.
I thought we were
a firehole.
I thought we were done talking about Tim's butt after all those apps.
Look, we can stop talking about this.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is my segment now, and I'm getting pissed. Let's move on to the next slide.
Okay.
The Yellowstone Lake, one of the largest freshwater lakes in North America and the largest body of water in Yellowstone. This lake covers 136 square miles of land with about 110 miles of shoreline. And as you can see in this photo, absolutely gorgeous, completely, at least this angle, penned in by large trees.
It's cold, isn't it?
Yeah.
Gotta be.
There are kayak companies that take tours out on the lake, but there's really specific training that tour guides have to get because people have died from falling out of their boats and getting hypothermia.
Yeah.
Because it's so cold.
I bet it's everybody dying here all the time.
Yeah, basically any beautiful photo you see of Yellowstone, there's probably a way someone has died in it. Which is kind of, I mean, it's awful, but it's kind of cool.
I really hope Anthony shows a photo of the big screen thing we were talking about earlier, and we hear that somebody was like scared to death by The Conjuring 2 in it.
They saw a train coming at this.
So in this picture, it feels kind of deceiving to me because is the lake also back here behind the trees as well as this little like inlet in the front? Or is it only this big?
Great cue.
Good question. I think that it does stretch, and the photo is kind of an optical illusion.
So this is just like kind of a finger of the lake.
Yeah, and perhaps this is just like one end of the lake, and if you had turned 360 degrees, you'd see it stretch a super far distance the other direction. I think it's a little deceiving because it's reflecting the sky, and you can't tell if the photo's upside down.
You can't? You really can't?
You can't
but
do
the
that.
trees.
Yeah, you can't tell.
Anthony.
Along the shoreline, there's a lot of felled trees. Is that a natural occurrence? Or, and I'm asking the park
I don't
expert.
know. Park expert is super debatable. I don't know. There's a lot of felled trees around because of like fires. Like there's part of the forest is always basically burning.
Right.
Yeah.
But I know in the 80s, there was a really big Grant Village fire where they had to like evacuate everybody.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of sort of down trees because of like various fires that have happened, but I don't know.
I'm curious, coming from Colorado, this is something that we have an issue with. Not felled trees from fires. Fires will happen anywhere there's a forest, but like specifically we have those like these weevils that are killing trees.
Oh.
Is that an issue in Yellowstone at all yet?
I don't know. It's worth some research.
It's terrifying. You look at a forest and like one out of every like 4 trees is just the same height, but like obviously dead and brown. And it's because these weevils go in and like eat them from the inside out and then move to the next tree. It's a pretty serious issue, guys.
I hear they become a real problem when they evolve into a bee drill.
Let's move on to the next slide. Stu's taking his headphones off. He's done.
Oh, there's the bison.
Hell fucking yeah. The bison of Hayden Valley.
Hayden
Large
Valley.
that occupies about 50 square miles of Yellowstone.
Yep.
It used to be a lake bed when Yellowstone Lake was much larger, and now it sits on the edge of the current lake boundary. It's well known as the best site to see the wildlife of Yellowstone, including buffalo, grizzly bears, coyotes, and elk, among many, many others.
You think the thing's ever been seen?
I think this stretch of land is absolutely gorgeous. This looks like any sort of landscape painting inspiration. I think that the buffalo moving through, it's teeming with buffalo, and they're just going about their daily business.
Yeah, there's a lot of bison in Hayden Valley, and I've been to Hayden Valley specifically because that's where people say you're supposed to go to see them.
Look, Tim, you go ahead.
What is the difference between a bison and a buffalo? Is there?
So, buffalo are technically from Africa, like water buffalo. And then in North America, they're technically bison. I think anyone who corrects people on that is kind of a dick, though. It's so unnecessary.
Okay.
That sounds
You don't
right.
need to correct people just to make yourself feel good. But they are technically bison.
Can I ask, looking at this river in the middle of the valley, it looks like the perfect place for fly fishing. I know that Yellowstone is almost entirely catch and release based on what my research for my sound segment, the fish sound you heard earlier, guys. Is this a place where I could go out with my reel and cast the day away?
Yeah, I saw some people fishing. I don't know what all the fishing laws are, but I saw some people doing it.
Damn.
It might be a dangerous place to fish because there's so much wildlife activity moving through.
What, the bison going to come over?
What about the bears? They like to fish.
The bear do like to fish.
I'll bet you those cutthroat trout are dangerous too.
Yeah.
What I think is the most impressive thing about this photo is you can't tell if it's upside down.
There's no way to tell.
Okay.
Listeners, sign up for that Patreon. Check it out and let me know if you can tell.
Patreon.com/Statesmen Podcast.
All right, well, let's move on to the second to last slide, guys.
Whoa.
Here we are at the top of Mount Washburn, the highest peak of the Washburn mountain range, which is completely contained within the boundaries of Yellowstone. It reaches up to 10,243 feet in the air and was named after Henry D. Washburn, who led an expedition that explored, researched, and documented the land that would become Yellowstone. Stu also mentioned him earlier. Very cool.
Did I?
Yeah, you mentioned that expedition.
Yeah, the Washburn Longburn.
And here we have some goatish creatures, or
definitely not a goat.
What is that? A deer?
It's some sort of like mountain deer kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, it's gazing over this vast, expansive mountain range and the rolling green hills.
I think they might be goats. I think there's some horns. This is a doe, and then there are some horned
You're
goats
right. There
back
is
here.
there is a horn back there hidden off to the side, sort of like the devil in a Waldo painting.
This is a gorgeous, gorgeous shot. And I'm not sure if it's because of the fisheye lens or if it really just is that beautiful.
Yeah, we were talking about what was screening at the big screen theater, Sonic, obviously, but this is truly the big green hill zone, right, guys? Okay. So, Laura, you ever been to the top of Mount Washburn or any mountain in the park?
I've never been to the top. I did a lot of hiking, and Teton National Park is really close to Yellowstone, so we it was pretty easy to like drive over to the Tetons. I never got to the top of a mountain, and Mount Washburn. You said it's the highest, right?
Yeah, 10,243 feet.
Yeah, no, I did not get to the top.
That's a lot of feet.
But I think there's some controversy because, companies are constantly trying to build like cell phone towers in the park to get internet and cell phone service. And there's a big push to build a cell phone tower on top of Mount Washburn.
Come on.
Yeah, which people are angry about.
It's whack as hell.
Yeah.
I feel like we should be angry. Why can't we just all agree that, hey, this plot of land we don't need to use a phone here, guys?
I feel like that was the point of the whole park in the first place, was to like keep it as it is.
It's so amazing. I really can't. There's no other program like this in the United States. We're such a capitalist, like, not to go off, but like,
Go off.
We are such a like materialistic, greed motivated country. But then we have the national parks, which are this huge areas of land that really only exist because we've all somehow agreed that like nature is important and that we should preserve parts of it.
It's one of the true like only things that I can think of. I mean, there's good stuff that the government has done, but this is like a truly like socialist populism. Like, we can all enjoy this. It doesn't matter about your status or class. Anyone can come to this park, and the only thing that is important here is preservation. And it seems like putting a big tower in the middle of it. I mean, not to mention all the dang diseases we're going to get from them cell phone waves, but I mean, it's going to look bad.
Yeah. And I mean, I think like as technology gets more advanced and stuff, like this will probably come up more and more. But like I said, you know, people get mad when they can't watch TV in their hotel rooms. So
yeah,
there's a lot of controversy around like how much should technology get into the park.
And I'm sure there's some sort of argument, like they're trying to pass it off as being for like safety precautions and shit, but it truly is just like the wackest like thing ever. Like, you know, most people are choosing to go there to experience the park, and if
Most
you're too busy,
people.
okay, cool.
Well, I would say no. I'm saying like I'm agreeing with you. Like, who is going here and being like, oh no, I've been lost in the park and I need my phone. Other than us, I mean, us three boys, but like,
yeah, people are going there to experience, you know, the park, and they can't fully immerse themselves in it if they're too busy like focusing on posting their selfies. You know what I mean?
Have you read much of the political history behind Yellowstone at all?
Me
or
the
any of you?
political history?
Yeah, like how like the fight to preserve Yellowstone, like.
No, I haven't read too much about it.
I bet it's not easy.
It's fascinating, and it feels like it. Like when reading the Wikipedia history, and it's like, you know, super bare bones, but even reading the Wikipedia history, you can feel the victory that all of these like mountaineers and environmentalists shared when they actually got it passed, and it would be just a shame to let that victory go by the wayside.
Absolutely. Why don't we move on to the final slide on that solemn note? A very solemn, fittingly solemn slide. Here we go.
What? Really?
Well, why don't you walk us through what we're seeing on this slide? All Yellowstone imagery.
Is there like a... well, to be honest, I have a hard time describing this because I'm confused about what I'm looking at. There's some Simpsons things. And then there's a man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why don't you read what is on the text there?
Okay, well, it says, it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. I get it.
Oh.
Stay yellow, stay stoned, stay cold. Oh, did you write this?
Nope.
We scanned this out of a book, remember?
Wrestling's cool, nature rules, good stuff, keep it up. Okay.
So we're making the case that if Stone Cold Steve Austin was in The Simpsons, he would be Yellowstone Steve Cold Austin or whatever.
What do you mean, what if? We have some classic animation cells pulled directly from everybody's favorite episodes. And we have Steve Austin, a photograph of him himself on a yellow background, Yellowstone Cold.
You know, you warned us before. Oh, you might have warned me before you showed this to us, saying how bad it was. And
don't spoil the magic trick.
You know, now that I understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
Well, out of 5 boroughs, Laura, how many does this?
Well, so much research went into it. 5 out of 5 boroughs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I do feel like a couple of these scores might have been just Laura feeling bad about us 3 kids coming in here with our presentations. But wow, a perfect episode.
Yeah, it really was. It is a perfect episode.
And a perfect final slide to send us off.
Well, we've explored Yellowstone with our eyes. with our ears, with our tongues, and with our noses. So we're going to move on to our last regular segment where we explore Yellowstone with our hearts, going around in the circle, starting with Anthony, to Laura, to Stuart, then to myself. We'll go around in the circle to talk about how Yellowstone makes us feel. Anthony?
For many, many years, the 5 boroughs have argued about who has the best pizza. But one thing remains true. Everybody can agree that there's something in the water. And in this case, it's bacteria. Colorful, colorful bacteria. But the color that I care about most is yellow. Yellowstone. A gorgeous place. So many interesting facts. Lots of scary facts that I'm pretty horrified by, but intrigued by. And I agree with something that you said very early on in this episode. I would love to die at Yellowstone. Hopefully not under grisly circumstances. But you know, it's one of the most gorgeous places on Earth. It's or at least in the US. It's so well preserved. It's so important to our world and our country. And I hope that it never changes. I think that the only restrictions that should be put on it are more restrictions to ensure that people aren't being idiots, disturbing the nature, and destroying the experience for other people. There should absolutely be no internet there. There should absolutely be no cell phone towers. I don't think that there should be an IMAX movie theater.
What?
I think that it's great because it's raw and it's gorgeous, and it truly represents what a lot of our country looked like before it was colonized and, industrialized. And I think that as much as we can fight to preserve that natural area, we have to do everything that we can. So I know we're here right now, but I want to come back and spend more time and really, really drink it in. I would love to live in a cabin out here. I do get sick of living in a city, and I like nature calls to me. So one of those days I've got to answer the call.
Anthony, would you say that Yellowstone is Monday Night Raw?
Laura.
I love Yellowstone. I think it's the most beautiful place in the world. Second home, second family. And I hope that I die there. Also, those condom dispensers in the bathrooms had to get refilled about once a week. So, the employees are having a good time.
Wow. Jesus. Good for them.
Can I ask, what brand of condom? Do you remember?
Generic.
Damn, hell yeah.
Stuart?
Well, my little end here won't be generic like those condoms. Instead, I want to talk about Yellowstone, the only Yellowstone I care about. That's right. The Yellow Infinity Stone, the Mind Stone. First appearing on the Chitauri spear in the Avengers before going into the Mind of Vision, being taken off his head and entering the gauntlet. Remember, Anthony?
You gotta marvel at the beauty of this national park.
Thank you. Well, I have to say that Yellowstone will always take up a big place in my mind as the kind of only place in America that I think is like truly America. Like when I think of what this country looks like, I know you want to think about the big mixing pot of New York or Hollywood, California, whatever. For me, it's big mountains, it's nature, and it's wide open spaces with unlimited possibility. And I think Yellowstone fills all of those categories. I think when Teddy Roosevelt first set his eyes upon it and decided that, hey, we got to pass this large federal bill to not just take care of this land, but lands like it everywhere among the nation. It was probably one of the greatest things any president has ever done, and it is one of the most important things personally to me. Having grown up like 30 minutes away from a national park in Estes Park, the Rocky Mountain National Park, I think that they are kind of the most valuable thing that America has. It's one of the resources that hopefully we can all agree that it is not worth spending at any point. And well, much like the Mind Stone was destroyed in at the end of Infinity War, I believe, or maybe at the beginning of Endgame, I hope that we can go back in time and change history so this little Yellowstone is never destroyed. I landed that one perfectly.
I wish we could go back in time so we could avenge this podcast because it's died. Yellowstone. You know, I'm so happy that I'm here right now. I've never been here before, and something that Yellowstone always reminded me of was some place in my hometown in Missouri, Eureka, Missouri, right next to the Six Flags. Instead of Yellowstone, we had Jellystone National Park, where you could go visit Yogi and all of his friends and enjoy a really nice subpar tourist attraction right next to the Six Flags. Now, I never went, but during the Christmas time or during the holiday season, they would always put up a really nice holiday lights that I would always drive by, but never actually go in. If you have any questions or concerns about the great 50 states of the Statesman, reach out to us on Twitter at StatesmanPod, on Facebook and Instagram at Statesman Podcast, or by email at statesmanpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, please follow us on Patreon at patreon.com/statesmanpodcast. And please like, share, and comment on the show in the comments, and share the show with your friends because it helps the show out a lot. Laura.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Definitely.
Do you have anywhere that we can find you on the internet? Any shows that you want to plug or otherwise?
Yes. The best place to find me on the internet is on Twitter at Laura Mulch, LauraMulch. As far as shows in the city, I perform with my Twisty team, Little Fury, every Saturday at 7 o'clock in the Second City Training Center in the Blackout Cabaret.
Nice.
You can see my Herald team Artemis at IO Chicago. And my indie team Cat Beauty. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And we have a run of Thursday shows opening for Revolver at IO for all of March. So come out to those.
Yeah. We've known you for such a long time. We first met doing college improv shows back in the day. And they were the best shows that any of us have ever done. Quality content. But you're so funny. Your comedy's so unique. You're such an awesome person. And we really, this is truly an informative, crazy informative episode.
Yeah, Laura, you're about to get even more compliments because I think you're a genuinely super hilarious and different person in the Chicago comedy scene. And when we found out that you also had this experience in one of the most formative, important places in America, we were like, we have to get her on the podcast right now.
Is this how every episode ends?
Yes, because we love our guests.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, everybody on our podcast is our friends, and now you're a friend of the show, and we count you not only as a friend in comedy, but also a friend in the stone.
Aww.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
my sentiments are shared.
Thank you for hosting us. It's been a lovely way to spend some time.
I do see some headlights outside the window, so it kind of think of my parents is here.
Yeah. Well, before we go, Anthony Stewart, Camden, you got anything to plug?
Oh, yeah. Camden?
Yeah, I'll go. And you guys you ousted my opportunity for plugs at the end of the Willie episode.
Oh, dang.
But it was really convenient because all my shit was in flux and I've been working on the rebrand thing. You can find me everywhere at Cam Stacy with an underscore. That's CAMSTACEY _ always doing all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Stuart?
I want to specifically talk about a show that's going on at The Annoyance that a bunch of my friends are participating in. It's the West Wing musical. You'll be able to see it every Sunday in March at The Annoyance. Lovely cast full of lovely people, many friends of the show. If you like West Wing, go see it. If you'd never watched West Wing, don't watch the fucking show. It's aged poorly, but definitely see the musical.
I love the West Wing.
Oh.
I bet there's a National Parks episode.
About in West Wing?
I
where
bet.
someone's like, oh, we can't have parks anymore. And he goes, when I was a kid, we used to have big parks. And everyone in the room starts nodding their heads. Like, you're right. You
As
are
Martin
right.
Sheen talks.
Yeah. I also just want to plug my social media at Stuart Highcar on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram, only one video you'll be able to see on my profile until you become my friend. And then it'll take a couple of weeks before I can register you as a friend and you'll get the rest of that content. But that one video is very, very funny and you should follow me until that happens. Also on Twitter, I'm always posting funny stuff. Anthony, what do you got going on?
You can't do a Sorkin walk and talk in Yellowstone because you might get too distracted and a bear could sneak up on you. You could follow me on Instagram and Twitter at I'm a Rossi. And the most important thing I have to plug is a show with my dear friend Tim, Pasta Night at Kip Studios.
That is a great show.
On March 14th. It's going to be a very, very special show. We've got a killer lineup. This is the first time Stu's been allowed to perform at the show.
I was shadow banned until this show.
It's going to be a tremendous time. Kip Studios is such a tremendous venue. You got to come out and see it. We're going to have so much fun. It's a special St. Patty's sort of show, and it's one that you can't miss. So definitely come out for that.
You can find me at Young Garlic, YUNG_Garlic. I have a little art show in a toilet gallery. It's a tiny toilet gallery at Chocolate City. You can find all my art between the dates of April 15th and May 15th, I think. And I'm doing commissions.
Cool.
So reach out.
Dope. Thank you, Commissioner.
I think that's it. On behalf of my junior statesman Anthony Rossi and Stuart Highcar, I'm your elder statesman Tim Ferrari. State positive.
I swam across the springs for you. It was hot, it's true. The stone was all yellow.
And that's the bottom line, because Yellowstone said so.
You could say Yellowstone, forget me, because I left out my shoes. But every day since we got here, I've thought less and less of stew. Because we didn't need a reason for a bear to come knocking at the door.
I'm getting in the car.
How long is this? Our parents are here.
But I don't want to be in Yellowstone anymore.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Let's go.
Everyone get out of my cabin.